The unwelcome guests. The Atlas Dawn was a workhorse of the Belt trade routes, half freighter, half diplomatic courier, slow enough to be overlooked, fast enough to outrun trouble. Captain Rian Vega had spent 6 years in her command chair, ferrying goods, messages, and the occasional dignitary between Saturn's moons and the Belt colonies. It was supposed to be another routine run. Then the distress call came. Unmarked vessel, grid 18 by 42, dead in space, the comm officer reported. Minimal power readings. No registry ping. Vega frowned. The unmarked part was the first problem. Could be pirates. Put us on a parallel course. Keep sensors hot. Through the forward viewport, the ship appeared as a dark silhouette against the glitter of the outer system. Long, barbed, and entirely alien. Vega had seen enough Outer Rim patrol reports to recognize the general shape. Zoryth hull design. Grav's signature confirms it, the XO murmured. That's not one of ours. Before Vega could order a course change, the dead ship came alive. Hull lights flared crimson, drive flares ignited, and the alien vessel surged forward like a predator pouncing from cover. The impact rattled the Atlas Dawn as magnetic clamps locked them together with bone-shaking force. Multiple hull cutters detected, the security chief barked. 3 teams, midship and aft sections. Vega's lips tightened. Zoryth boarding wasn't subtle. They preferred overwhelming shock, tearing through airlocks and decks like blades through paper. Most victims never had a chance to mount a defense. But Atlas Dawn wasn't most victims. Seal compartments 7 through 9, Vega ordered. Initiate Protocol Black. A hush fell over the bridge. Protocol Black was rarely used. It was a defensive doctrine designed not for repelling boarders, but for dissecting them. The crew moved fast. Bulkheads sealed with metallic thuds. Gravity in the targeted corridors shifted abruptly, pulling sideways and up at once. Environmental controls dropped the temperature to sub-zero. High-frequency sonic pulses, inaudible to human ears, vibrated the air like an invisible hammer. On the tactical display, the Zoryth dots representing boarding parties staggered and slowed. In the docking corridor, Kras Vul, war leader of the boarding pack, hissed in annoyance as his claws scraped over suddenly slick flooring. The human's gravity shift made each step feel like climbing against a sideways pull. "They're trying to disorient us," one of his lieutenants snarled. "They'll fail," Kras replied. His people had boarded dozens of ships across the sector. Miners, freighters, even military scouts. None had stopped them. None had even tried this kind of resistance. Yet something gnawed at him. The humans weren't firing wildly or rushing to barricade. They were guiding. His helmet HUD pinged with false movement markers. His squad's comm net filled with ghost voices. The further they advanced, the more their formation fractured. Back on the bridge, Vega watched the sensor feed with clinical calm. "How long until Earth Command gets our signal?" 72 seconds, the comm officer said. "Good. Keep them moving through the choke points." In a hidden command center deep beneath Luna's surface, Admiral Imani Osei received the encrypted burst from Atlas Dawn. Her brow rose as she scanned the incoming telemetry, not a call for rescue, but a complete data stream of Zoryth suit telemetry, weapon heat cycles, and reaction times. Vega wasn't just fighting back. He was feeding Earth Command live combat analytics. "Directive Echo," Osei said to her staff. "Authorize full observation. Let's see what our predators do when the prey starts leading them." On Atlas Dawn, the Zoryth reached their first objective, a sealed bulkhead at the edge of engineering. Plasma lances hissed and spat, cutting into the reinforced doors. "Let them breach," Vega ordered. "Then cycle the containment." When the bulkhead finally gave, Kras's warriors poured through, only to be caught in a sudden gust of vented atmosphere that hurled them back into the corridor. The doors slammed shut behind them. A moment later, the gravity twisted again, throwing them into the ceiling. From the bridge, Vega allowed himself the faintest smile. "Send our next package to Earth Command. Let's give them the whole playbook." The battle wasn't over. But already, Vega could feel the shift. This wasn't a boarding anymore. It was a trap, and the Zoryth had walked right into it. Lock and counterlock. Admiral Imani Osei leaned over the tactical display in Luna Command's subterranean war room, the glow from the holomap painting her face in cold blues and reds. The Atlas Dawn pulsed as a steady green icon in the outer system, clamped to a larger, jagged red outline, the Zoryth Raider. Zoryth boarding teams are splitting into 3 prongs, her operations chief reported. Captain Vega's gravity control and sonic disruptors are working. Mobility is down by 40%. Osei studied the telemetry flowing in from the ship. Weapon discharge patterns, squad cohesion metrics, even subtle fluctuations in alien biosigns were being logged. The Atlas Dawn wasn't just resisting, she was turning the battle into a laboratory. "Tell Vega he's authorized to engage Directive Echo in full," Osei ordered. "We're not just pushing them out, we're learning how they breathe." Inside the trap, Kras Vul pushed forward through the disorienting corridors, jaw clenched against the high-pitched pressure in his skull. His warriors stumbled, armor scraping the walls. The humans' corridors twisted at odd angles, forcing the Zoryth to break formation. "Squad 2, advance on the port-side junction," he barked. Static crackled in his comms. For a heartbeat, he heard his own voice repeating back to him. He ripped the comm bead from his ear with a snarl. The humans were inside their channels. "Stay tight," he growled to the squad nearest him. "Ignore their tricks. They're only delaying the inevitable." Yet even as he said it, Kras couldn't shake the sense that the humans weren't running, they were pulling. Every turn, every sealed hatch, every gravity shift felt like the deliberate nudge of a predator steering prey toward a kill zone. The psychological net. On Atlas Dawn's bridge, Vega kept his voice even. "Corridor 14, engage lighting pattern Gamma." In the dim passageways ahead of Kras's advance, strips of light flickered in slow, rhythmic pulses. The Zorytha's visual cortex, tuned for rapid prey detection, began to misread the corridor depth. Warriors hesitated, firing at phantom movement. The Marines shadowing them in secondary vents didn't fire a single shot, they only observed, their helmet cams feeding Earth Command every second of alien confusion. "Package 3 ready for burst," the comm officer said. "Send it," Vega replied. Far across the solar system, Admiral Osei watched the incoming feed and began building a model. Reaction time to light interference, squad disarray under comm disruption, vulnerability windows in armor movement cycles. "File this under hostile behavior index. Zoryth, boarding class," she said. "Next time they try this, they won't last 5 minutes." The engine room lure. Kras finally reached the engineering bulkhead again. This time, the door opened without resistance. The vast engine chamber yawned before them, power conduits thrumming, reactor core glowing with pale light. "They've abandoned it," a warrior hissed. "No," Kras said slowly. "They want us here." A low vibration shuddered through the deck. From above, heavy shutters began sliding down over the exits. Kras bolted for the nearest gap before it sealed, but gravity flipped mid-stride, pitching him and his warriors into the reactor's maintenance pit. The doors slammed shut, leaving them in flickering half-light. A voice crackled over the room's speakers. It was calm, human, and maddeningly confident. "Enjoy your stay," Captain Vega said. "You're helping us more than you know." Earth Command's hand. Back in Luna Command, Osei allowed herself the faintest smile. "Initiate Phase 2. Take their ship." From Atlas Dawn, a narrow data umbilical running through the docking clamps fed into the Zoryth vessel systems. Firewalls designed to repel crude hacking attempts were met with adaptive AI infiltration, Earth's best cyber warfare algorithms. Within minutes, the Zoryth ship's internal comms were flooded with contradictory orders. Holoscreens showed false battle footage, humans rampaging through decks that were, in reality, still secure. Crew morale fractured. Small knots of Zoryth hunkered down, convinced they'd already been overrun. The realization. Kras, trapped in engineering, heard the shouts over open channels, panic in his own ship. Then a voice he'd never expected to hear inside his own command net, Admiral Osei herself, speaking perfect Zoryth. "This is Earth Command," she said. "You boarded us. Now we board you. Surrender, and live. Resist, and we'll keep you long enough to learn everything about you before we decide how you die." Kras froze. This wasn't the voice of prey. This was the voice of a predator who had just shifted the hunt. The balance had tipped. The Atlas Dawn was no longer a boarded vessel. It was the spear point of an operation that was about to turn the invaders into prisoners, and their own ship into Earth's newest training ground. Turning the tide. The Atlas Dawn's boarding response teams were already in position, hidden in service crawlways and maintenance shafts running parallel to the Zoryth incursion routes. Captain Vega's voice came over their encrypted comms, calm as ever. Execute Counterstrike Alpha. Make it clean. In the dim-lit auxiliary bay, Sergeant Cal Nair pulled down his visor and gave a silent hand signal. His squad moved like shadows, magnetic boots releasing and locking in rhythm as they drifted toward the docking corridor where Zoryth clamps held their ship fast to the alien raider. Breaching in 3, Cal murmured. The charge was small, barely audible, but it sheared the alien hull's interior panel like paper. They slipped through into the Zoryth ship. The hunters become the hunted. The interior of the Zoryth vessel was a narrow, spike-lined maze, built for the lean, predatory frames of its crew. Human armor scraped against protruding ribs of black alloy. No one spoke. Cal's squad moved room to room, planting signal beacons that tagged their path for the AI intrusion already worming its way deeper into the Zoryth systems. Behind them, the ship's automated life support controls began to fail, lights dimming, oxygen flow stuttering, climate dropping into bone-chilling cold. The Marines didn't have to engage immediately. The plan wasn't to slaughter, but to corner. Force mistakes. Sao panic. Krassa's spiral. Still trapped in Atlas Dawn's engineering bay, Kras Vul slammed his gauntlet into the wall. His warriors had tried every cutting tool in their arsenal to breach the doors, but the humans had reinforced them from the outside. His commnet was a mess, half his channels dead, the rest full of terrified voices. "Report from dock control," one of his lieutenants shouted. "We're losing system command. Navigation is locked out." Krassa's claws curled. This wasn't a fight anymore, it was dismantling. And the humans were doing it without ever showing themselves. Earth Command's precision work. In Luna Command, Admiral Osei monitored 2 simultaneous maps, one of Atlas Dawn and one of the Zoryth ship. Green human units spread through the alien vessel like ink in water. "Cal's team is at the reactor bay," her ops chief reported. "Good," Osei said. "Lock it out. Keep them running on battery. Give them just enough power to see us coming." The hollow feed from Vega's bridge showed him watching alien biosigns flicker erratically as their stress levels spiked. The Zoryth fought best as a unified pack, but under pressure, their cohesion unraveled fast. Boarding from both ends. Cal's Marines reached the alien crew barracks without firing a shot. The door slid open to reveal 6 Zoryth huddled together, weapons raised but unfocused. "Down!" Cal barked through a translator. His team's rifles glowed with low-intensity stun charge, non-lethal, but strong enough to drop a fully armored target. 2 Zoryth fired wild plasma bursts into the ceiling before the stun rounds dropped them twitching to the deck. The rest surrendered immediately, claws spread in the Zoryth gesture of submission. "Tag them and move," Cal ordered. Elsewhere, a second Marine squad entered the alien bridge. The crew barely reacted. They were too busy staring at the human AI's false battle footage on their main screen, convinced half their ship was already burning. The captain's crest flattened in despair as zip binds locked around his arms. Vega's final play. From Atlas Dawn's bridge, Vega opened a direct channel to Kras. "You came here to take what's ours," Vega said evenly. "Instead, we've taken your ship. Your crew are either bound, unconscious, or hiding. And we've done it without losing a single human life." Kras didn't respond immediately. When he finally spoke, his voice was low, dangerous. "You've made an enemy of the Zoryth Dominion." Vega's tone sharpened. "We already had one. Now we know how to beat you." The lockdown. With both vessels under human control, Admiral Osei gave the order, "Secure the prize." The docking clamps disengaged, and Atlas Dawn drifted free as automated tugs moved in to tow the captured Zoryth vessel toward Luna for deep study. On the bridge, Vega finally allowed himself a breath. The trap had worked. The Zoryth hadn't just failed, they'd been dissected. Every reaction, every tactic, every weakness was now Earth Command property. A message sent. Before handing Kras over to the security teams, Vega leaned close to the viewport where the alien war leader stood in restraints. "Next time you try to board a human ship," Vega said quietly, "remember what happened here. And remember, This was us being gentle. Krass met his gaze in silence, but the flicker of unease in his eyes was unmistakable. The humans hadn't just repelled a boarding, they'd turned it into a demonstration. For the first time, the Zoryth would have to reckon with a prey species that had learned to hunt. The lesson delivered. The captured Zoryth vessel floated in Luna's high-orbit drydock, a scarred silhouette against the Earthrise. Dozens of human ships swarmed around it, patrol cutters, research craft, and salvage drones picking at the hull like curious birds. Inside the vast hangar of Dock 7, Admiral Imani Osei walked the grated catwalk toward the prisoner processing sector. Her boots echoed in the cavernous space, where engineers in hazard suits unloaded crates of alien technology, rifles, armor plates, even sections of their neural-linked navigation chairs. Everything was tagged, scanned, and logged. Every piece meant more data. And data meant power. Krass in chains. Krass Vul was seated at a heavy steel table in an interrogation room. His wrists were bound in magnetic cuffs that pulsed with an occasional blue spark, subtle, but enough to remind him of their presence. 2 armed guards stood silently against the wall. When Osei entered, she didn't sit immediately. She circled him once, studying the once-proud war leader who had stalked onto Atlas Dawn expecting an easy kill. "Do you know why you're still alive?" she asked finally. Krass bared his teeth in something between a snarl and a smile. "You want information." "We have information," Osei replied. "Your boarding tactics. Your reaction times. Your ship's schematics. Your AI encryption keys. We know how you fight, Krass Vul, and more importantly, we know how you lose." The alien's crest twitched, a subtle sign of unease. Reverse engineering the enemy. In the nearby tech labs, teams were already breaking down Zoryth equipment. Their weapons, tuned for their own atmosphere and physiology, behaved differently in human gravity fields, making them vulnerable to jamming and overheating. Their armor, once thought impervious, was found to have microseams that could be exploited with electromagnetic pulse bursts. In a sealed chamber, scientists worked over the Zoryth ship's navigation computer. The Neuralink controls had been adapted for a species with reflex-based command hierarchies, meaning a single targeted disruption could leave them effectively blind in battle. Osei reviewed the initial reports and smiled grimly. "We can break them faster than they can react." Vega's broadcast. Captain Vega stood on Atlas Dawn's bridge, now docked alongside the captured vessel. A galaxy-wide encrypted broadcast was cued, directed not just at the Zoryth Dominion, but at every power block in known space. The message was simple. To all who would target human ships, the boarding of Atlas Dawn ended with the capture of a Zoryth war vessel and the surrender of its crew. We did not win through numbers, nor through overwhelming firepower, but through precision, discipline, and adaptability. We are not prey. We are prepared. Attempt this again, and you will not return home. The recording ended with a still image, the Zoryth ship, dwarfed by the human drydock, surrounded by the banners of Earth Command. The prisoner exchange offer. A week later, a Zoryth envoy contacted Earth Command via relay drone. They demanded the immediate return of their captured crew and vessel, threatening escalation. Osei replied with measured calm, "You may have your warriors back. The ship remains ours. And if you wish the return of your people, you will send 1 warship, unarmed, to our dock. Any deviation from this condition will be seen as a hostile act." The envoy's image flickered, unreadable, before cutting the feed. Krass's departure. When the exchange finally happened, Krass was marched through the dock under heavy guard. His eyes flicked over the human engineers crawling over his once-proud warship, stripping it for knowledge. He said nothing until he stood face-to-face with Captain Vega one last time. "You have won a battle," Krass said quietly. "But the war is something you'll have to think very carefully about before starting," Vega finished. "We know you now, Krass. And next time, we won't be gentle." A new doctrine. In the weeks that followed, Earth Command issued a new fleet-wide directive. Any hostile boarding attempt will be met with immediate counterboarding operations, capture of enemy assets, and strategic exploitation of all recovered technology. Training simulations across the fleet now included the Atlas method, named for the tactics Vega's crew had perfected. The galaxy reacts. The broadcast of Atlas Dawn's victory spread far beyond human space. Some alien powers viewed it as a curiosity, others as a warning. The more predatory empires took note, weighing whether human cunning outweighed the reward of an easy raid. Among the Zoryth, whispers spread that the humans had not just resisted but studied them, had dissected their methods like prey dissecting a hunter. It was a notion that unsettled them far more than defeat itself. Final reflection. On the observation deck of Atlas Dawn, Vega stood with Osei, watching the repaired ship glide away from the dock. "They came to take us," Vega said. "They left us stronger." Osei nodded. "That's the thing about humans. We don't just survive, we adapt. And once we learn the shape of our enemy, we make sure they never catch us by surprise again." The stars stretched endlessly before them, silent and waiting. Somewhere out there, the Zoryth would regroup. But the humans would be ready, because now the galaxy knew the truth. Boarding a human ship was the quickest way to lose your own.